Hey guys, for those of you that don't know, my name's Bronwyn and this is very different from my usual content, but I've been going through all my boxes and stuff in the garage, and I remembered that I wrote a chapter for a book. The book came out about 1.5 years ago, and because I was in Mexico and posters an issue, I didn't get a physical copy. I got the digital one, but I got a physical copy sent home. And I forgot all about it. So I've just been checking it out really, because I haven't seen a physical copy of it, and it's just so cool. It was called Sacred Silver Linings, and it was just a whole bunch of women just wrote their stories for it, and I thought I would share mine. I approached them about doing an audiobook because I think that would have been really cool if we'd all read our chapters out, but it didn't end up happening. But there's no reason why I can't read mine out. It is very different from my usual, happy music. So trigger warning, it does touch on sexual assault. Don't keep listening if you don't want to. There's no pressure. And yeah, it is still kind of music related. I titled my chapter Finding My Voice, which is very fitting, and it does have a few of my song lyrics sprinkled throughout it, so it is kind of related but not at the same time. Yeah, I hope you like it. I feel like there was one other thing I was going to say about it. Oh, duh. If you want to get a copy, you can buy them on Amazon. The digital copy, I believe, is still $1 or 99 cents, US probably. And I'm not too sure what the physical copy costs, but you can, just look it up, Sacred Silver Linings. And yeah, so this is my chapter called Finding Your Voice. This part's in quotation marks, as you'll know if you know the song Optimistic. These cracks are getting harder to hide, and the secret's weighing heavy on my mind, that these days are getting harder to face, 'cause every move I make is just another mistake. And then in brackets it says Optimistic lyrics, releasing 2024. That's actually good. I thought I put early 2024 and I was very late on that, so I'm glad I changed that. So many things about these lyrics and when I wrote them seem crazy to me now. It was April 2020. It was the first song I'd finished in 3 years. At the time, I put my writer's block down to my perfectionism, which isn't entirely wrong, but there was so much more to it. I was a people pleaser and so disconnected from myself. Of course, it's hard to know what to write about when everyone else is dictating your songs and you let them. We'd just started the first lockdown in New Zealand. I was both enjoying having a break from my 5 jobs and hating it simultaneously because I'm a workaholic. If you'd heard or read those lyrics, you'd think I was really sad, but I thought I was somewhat happy. If anyone saw me, they'd probably agree I was happy too. I was 25, relatively healthy, working a variety of jobs that I mostly enjoyed alongside gigging. I had obtained good local success with the original country pop music that I'd put out so far, along with my national tours. But every day I was dreaming of moving to Nashville and touring the world. I'd successfully healed my epilepsy. I had also come off the antidepressants I'd been on for years. I was living at home, still for the sake of saving money. I was good at looking at the bigger picture, and any frustrations I experienced living at home I left to my guitar case. Work as much as I can, save as much as possible, and then fly. That was my vision that got me through. Smiling through sleep deprivation and racing from one job to the next was as easy as singing to me. Yet these lyrics fell out of me like they already knew what it would take me a couple more years to understand. I should slow down. People pleasing was the only way I knew how to navigate every aspect of my life. Music was the exception. It's hard when your accountant dad tells you to stop doing what you love even when you're 5 because it's not productive and you'll never be able to make money from it. I breathed music as long as I can remember. I learnt 10 different instruments effortlessly by the time I was 13, most of which I could still play, at least the basics of today. I never did... That's a typo, and I don't think I was the one that put that there, surely. They had an editor. I never did stop playing like he wanted me to. Every time I tried, I'd catch myself singing again without even realizing it, but I wanted his approval so desperately that the resistance from disappointing him meant I never enjoyed music as much as I used to, until recently. My mum didn't have many friends, so from 4 years old, I was the person she would confide in. I always wanted to help, so after a while it became natural for me to go and comfort her before she even said anything was wrong, which was more regular than the incessant bags under my eyes. Pleasing both my parents weighed on my soul more than I understood. At school, I was a crippling perfectionist. Top of the class was the only place I felt somewhat comfortable. If I wasn't there, my whole world would collapse, and it did every time I got something wrong. I had a hard time making friends and spent a lot of time on my own. Sleep was a huge issue since I was 5. Before that, I remember waking up naturally at 6 a.m. to watch cartoons with my sister, but after that I couldn't get to sleep till the early morning and struggled to get out of bed. My parents put it down to me starting school and my brain not wanting to stop learning. I didn't learn the real reason until 23 years later. When I was around 8, I started making weird noises in my sleep that after a year of doctors, hospital visits and tests, we learnt were seizures. I was officially diagnosed with epilepsy when I was 10 and started taking medication to treat it. 2 years later, I was diagnosed with depression and started on antidepressants as well. I remember teachers looking at me and treating me differently after my initial diagnosis. I don't really remember telling other kids or their reactions until I was 12. My initial epilepsy specialist believed my seizures were puberty related, as if puberty isn't already stressful enough, and made a plan for me to come off my medication. It didn't work. Not only did my seizures come back, but I also started having them during the day, including during class. I remember kids mimicking me when they thought I wasn't looking, and calling me a cat because during my seizures it sounded like I had a throat ball. I hated my life. I was put back on the medication, but it wasn't as effective this time. The specialist tried to tell me I was too stressed and needed to work on that to prevent the seizures, but I didn't want to hear it. It would be hard enough for an adult to accept that they were essentially the reason for their seizures, let alone a 12-year-old. I just got more angry and stressed. I was sent to several therapists. My only real takeaway from the therapy sessions was being told to stop hating myself and the world and just be happy. Easy, right? I went from being able to keep my diagnosis quiet because I only had seizures in my sleep to having to tell everyone. And of course, the one time I forgot to tell someone was the time I had a seizure. People didn't understand that my seizures were minor, and I got sick of them treating me differently. Fast forward to last year, now technically 2 years ago, just 2 years after I wrote the song Optimistic. After thinking about it for over a year, I decided somewhat last minute to book a one-way ticket to the other side of the world. I'd always wanted to move overseas because New Zealand is simply so small and far away from everything. I tried a couple of times, but things fell through and then the pandemic happened, and I knew I had to go sooner and never would. I had enough savings to last me approximately 6 months without working and decided to trust that by then either my music would have taken off or I'll have found a remote online job to help me stay longer. Now another song quotation. Am I crazy, naive, maybe? Well, it's too soon to know. I guess that all we can do is sit back and see how far this goes. Wish me luck. Out now. Everyone thought I was crazy for this decision, but I was used to being a bit of a black sheep. Every now and then the people pleaser in me would crack and go crazy. Like in 2017, I quit my job and spent several months living out of my car and singing and couch surfing my way around the country. Another song quotation. Everybody thinks I've lost my mind. They think I'll come running back on home, just give it time. Quarter life crisis, out now. Mexico and the UK were the only places that weren't discriminating at the time I was deciding. After my last specialist told me I'd never come off my medication without seizures and proving him wrong since 2018, I had no intention of taking unnecessary medical treatments again, especially ones with such little research on them. And since my long-term goal is to get to Nashville, USA for music, I chose Mexico. It was the closest I could get. Because of my medical choices, I had to take a longer route to Mexico, but 48 hours of traveling and no sleep later, I arrived in Playa del Carmen. Another reason I chose Mexico was that I hate the cold, but I definitely didn't anticipate it being as hot as stage lights bearing down on me 24/7, 365 days of the year. I expected to sleep like a baby after all that travel and stress of arriving in one piece, but I wasn't used to sleeping with a fan or AC, so I barely slept at all. The initial weeks in Mexico were a blur. I was somehow excited to be here and numb at the same time. I guess I should say there, since I'm not technically there anymore. There were lots of intense thunderstorms, which was quite a change from the weather in Dunedin and kept me home more than I would have liked, but I also needed the rest. I only knew a couple of people here, but made an effort to get out and meet them and meet others when the weather allowed. I only knew a handful of words and phrases in Spanish and relied heavily on my translator to get around and settle into my new life. When I couldn't go out, I stayed in my apartment and took online music lectures or filmed singing videos to post online. I connected with a videographer early on and we managed to get out and shoot some nice videos for my song Wish Me Luck in between the storms. We talked about how we were both starting over, pursuing our passions, and were nervous about whether we could make them work and cope away from home. I thought we were both in a confident enough place that we'd both be sticking it out when I last saw him, but a couple of days later I saw on his Instagram that he decided to go home to the USA and hasn't pursued filming since. It's times like that I'm glad New Zealand is as far away as it is. Otherwise, it may well have been my story by now too. My sleep went up and down over the coming months. I was getting out and making friends and connections. I met some Aussie expats that adopted me as one of their own. I got a tan for the first time in years. I wasn't making the progress in my life and music that I wanted, but I was still hopeful that something would click and felt like it's more likely to happen here, where I'm pushing my comfort zone most days, than back home, where I know I'll just throw myself back into work and forget about what I really want, which was to have a successful music career and live in Nashville. I tried Reiki and breathwork and enjoyed them so much I decided to train in these modalities, both as a way of helping myself move forward faster and to help others in the future, as well as hypnosis and even plant medicine. But while I was making some small general progress, I still felt like I had this massive invisible block in my life. I still wasn't writing, and after a while I stopped sleeping altogether. Between the terrible exchange rate and my unanticipated therapy bill, my savings were going down fast. Despite using all the healing and relaxation techniques I'd learned, I'd started having panic attacks in the middle of the night. Finally, I called home and was about to book my return ticket. A breakthrough came during a self-hypnosis. I remembered a recurring nightmare I used to have about a wolf man coming down the hill to our house while I hid in the lounge. My sleazy uncle's name came to mind as I remembered it, and I had a feeling there was more to it than just a random nightmare. But without more memories resurfacing, I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Another song quote. Well, I'm tired and I'm blue, but I'll keep fighting, yeah, I'm not through. Sometimes it's hard to move on, feels like all my hope is gone, but I can always adjust the script, 'cause I'm not broken, I'm just a little chipped. And if you don't know, that's my song, Just a Little Chipped, inspired by the Beauty and the Beast remake and the character Chip. In a last-ditch attempt to avoid going home and work through whatever was behind the nightmare and blocking my sleep and life in general, I booked one last therapy session. Everything changed in that therapy session and the sessions in the following months. I remembered all the forgotten details of being sexually assaulted by that uncle multiple times from the age of 5 when I stopped sleeping. I started to piece together so much of my life, and things made so much sense now that I remembered what I had been through. I had a lot of mixed reactions from my family when I told them the news. My mum was crushed but believed me instantly. My sister didn't want to know about it. My dad didn't believe me and didn't want me to talk about it to anyone, especially Nana, and he definitely didn't want me reporting it to the cops. Initially I held off on both because it felt like the only reason I wanted to do either of them was to spite him, but after a while of still not feeling like I was healing, despite finally having my answers, I decided talking about it more openly and reporting my uncle might be the only option to move forward. I found a contact for the New Zealand police and reached out to them. They talked me through the whole process. I was worried about telling Nana. It was hard for her to hear me over the phone from Mexico, and since she would find out soon with the police investigating, Dad ended up telling her. I wasn't sure if that would be better or worse than telling her myself. She always thought the best of my uncle, so I really didn't think she would believe me or talk to me again. Dad said she was reluctant to hear it at first, but she came around almost more than he did. Fast forward to the present day, August 2023, and I've just returned to Mexico after a brief trip home. It was the first time I'd seen my Nana in over a year. We tried talking on the phone a couple of times in the early days of my move, but she struggled to hear me so much we stopped trying. I wasn't sure if I should bring up the assaults with her or just leave it, but I decided I needed to mention it, at least briefly. I didn't say much, but whether she realised it or not, she gave me so much closure that day. I barely started bringing it up before she said my uncle was creepy and sleazy sexually. I would have taken that closure, but she kept going. After fighting my dad about whether these events had actually happened for almost a year, she then said that my dad had always been quite naive and that's why he doesn't believe me. Words can't express the impact that brief conversation had on me. It's still a work in progress, but I've slowly been making improvements with my sleep. I've finished a couple of songs that I'm making plans to record soon. I'm finally on good terms with my dad again. The police investigation closed. They didn't have enough physical evidence to arrest my uncle, given there were no witnesses and due to the time that has passed, but I feel better knowing he's on their radar should anyone else come forward with information about him. They said they believed me and that he has the traits of a predator. Hearing that felt like the biggest weight was lifted off me. I'm starting a new chapter in my life. I've launched a healing business and started helping others heal with Reiki, breathwork and EFT, emotional freedom technique. I'm working with clients who've experienced anything from burnout to sexual assault. I've taken part in a TV show. I've gotten to contribute to this book and I'm in the process of writing my own. I've performed live for the first time in a year recently and could feel the difference all these hours of healing work have had on my voice. I am so much stronger and have even started to make plans to move to Nashville, which for a while there I felt like I'd never be ready for. Most importantly, I feel good. Happier than I've been in a long time, and I mean genuinely happy. Not just thinking I am, when really I'm too busy to realise how I truly feel. I don't know when I'll get to Nashville, but I know it'll happen when the time is right. In the past I would have been embarrassed to be running a business for something that isn't music, but doing both healing work and singing excites me more than anything I've ever done before. Each time I try to choose one, I end up changing my mind a week later, so why not do both? Music is also powerful and healing after all. It's been a journey and it's still evolving, but it's safe to say I've finally found my voice. And these lyrics are just the beginning. Oh, I forgot I added that one. Another song quote. I survived every roadblock and detour so far. That place where I'm going, yeah, I know it by heart. But how I'm gonna get there, that part isn't clear, so I'll just keep going and trust it'll appear. 'Cause even when the world keeps pushing back, even when I lose sight of the track, even then the goal is still the same. If anything, it strengthens my aim. Even when the light all turns to dark and I can barely feel the beating of my heart, even then I know I'll make it through, and that's what it all comes down to. That is a new song called What It All Comes Down To that was meant to be released last year. Hopefully it'll be out by the end of this year. Hopefully. I keep changing parts of it. But anyway, that was my chapter called Finding My Voice in the book Sacred Silver Linings. And my wee bio that I had written here says Bronwyn is a successful contemporary country singer-songwriter from New Zealand. Her EP, All In, reached number 9 on the New Zealand album charts, and her original music has seen her travel and perform all over the world, having spent the last 10 years bringing joy to people through her music. It was only a matter of time before she found more ways to help people. Over the last few years, she has undertaken training and become a practitioner in Reiki, breathwork and EFT. After experiencing her own profound healing journey, she now wants to share what has helped her with others. She is currently living in Mexico, where she is writing songs and owning her skills as a healer before she moves to Nashville, USA in 2024 to work on new music alongside her healing work. That is not quite how everything played out, but that's fine. That's a nice snapshot of where I was at that point in time. My business is up and running. I have paid clients. I never quite got past the freebie option last time. I went to Texas instead of Nashville. Decided I didn't really like it and went back to Mexico. Then I came home for my sister's wedding and to spend some time with my family. ended up looking after my nana for several months and just starting to like come up for air from that because it was exhausting. She's just moved into a rest home after I took 4 trips to the hospital in the space of a few weeks. But yeah, she's in a rest home now, so I don't have to look after her and I can get back to my life. And hopefully, I don't know, I keep changing my mind. I don't think I'm meant to go back to Mexico. If I do, it'll probably be short term or a different city. But I like being by the beach, but I was considering Mexico City. I don't know. Cause yeah, I loved Playa del Carmen, but it just didn't quite feel like home. And New Zealand doesn't feel like home either. Sorry guys. So yeah, I guess I just need to travel some more and figure out where I'm meant to be. Nowhere's like, a lot of places are sort of standing out, but none are standing out in a this is the place sort of way. So until I travel around and feel into it a bit more, I'm not too sure where I'll end up, but watch this space, and who knows, I'll write another chapter about the next stage of my life, or a book. I think, yeah, I was always kind of planning on writing a book. I have no idea how I'll go about it or when it'll happen, but yeah, I have some ideas. So yeah, thank you so much if you've stuck around. Yeah, this is from, like I said, Sacred Silver Linings. The blurb on the back says, uplifting stories from women who found the bright side in dark times. What do you do when all hope feels lost or like there is nothing left? The human experience seems to be rich with these types of experiences, doesn't it? Worst of all, in our darkest moments, we often think, no one could possibly know how this feels. This book is full of stories right from that moment. Women who found themselves in the darkest of times and ultimately found the sacred silver lining share their stories with a message of hope that you can find the light in your dark times too. Perhaps the very thing that nearly destroyed you was also there to illuminate your greatest gifts. I'm just so proud of this, but my phone ran out of space, so I had to finish up where I was and go edit and clear space, and now I'm back. But even though I said 99% of what I wanted to, I just wanted to add in thank you so much for listening right till the very end. I know I said this is very different from my usual content, but it means a lot that I was able to write this story and share it with anyone that felt like reading it, and now anyone that felt like listening to it as well. I hope you don't relate to it too much, but yeah, I'm just really proud of this book and my chapter, and I was surprised how easily I was able to write it. And this was the first time I had read it back since it came out, so there was a few things that I forgot that I had put in there or worded various ways, but no, I'm really, really, really proud of this book and this chapter of my life, and can't wait to share the next chapter with you in various forms. Maybe it'll be another chapter or a book or a podcast, who knows, but thank you so much for being here and supporting me, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.